Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Groswell, and joining me today is Lisa Walther. And Lisa is a certified personal trainer and a certified cancer exercise trainer who has been training individuals and groups for 17 years. She's accredited through the American College of Sports Medicine and works with clients of all ages using a combination of cardiovascular and strength training techniques to help them meet their individual fitness and body weight goals. Lisa is a two-time cancer survivor who holds a unique certification in cancer exercise training. She specializes in training clients with chronic illnesses such as cancer, Parkinson's, diabetes, and multiple sclerosis through a program that she developed called Move for Life. Through this program, she focuses on building and maintaining strength, fitness, flexibility, balance, and functional movement throughout a survivor's journey from diagnosis through treatment and beyond. She lives in Broomfield, Colorado, and she has a husband and 3 adult children. So welcome to the show, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have you here because, as my audience knows, I am also a cancer exercise. I'm a cancer exercise specialist, which is what my organization calls it, and your organization calls it a cancer exercise trainer, but very similar training and just being able to help more people.
Absolutely. We're in good company.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to talk about the importance of exercise of all types throughout the show, but I want to kind of get started with your diagnosis. So you were diagnosed like way back in 1999 for the first time. So can you kind of take us a little bit on that journey, where you were, what you were doing when you were diagnosed?
Absolutely. And stop me at any point if you have questions. It was a long, long time ago in my life, but I had just had a child, my first child. So I was 1 year post delivery on my first child and was going back to my OB for my 1 year checkup. And she was just doing a regular breast check and found what she called a lump. And she asked me if I had ever felt it. And I said no. And she asked me if I could feel it. And I said no. I never did feel it. It was very small. But she said, you know what? I'm sure it's just a clogged milk duct since you've had an infant this year and everything. But we're just going to ultrasound it just to make sure. So we did that. And I had not had an ultrasound of a breast before. So I had no idea what to expect. I had just turned 30. And that same day, she said, you know what, we're going to send you upstairs. We're going to do a mammogram. Again, had not had a mammogram before, had no idea what to expect.
When you were 30, they didn't do any of that.
I was 30. Now I did, my mom had breast cancer at 50. She was diagnosed at 50 and my grandmother at 70. So I had experienced them going through it. But to me, it was a quote unquote old person's disease and not anything that I had any interest in. Well, obviously interest, but I didn't think I would experience it so young. So fast forward a couple weeks and biopsies, and sure enough was diagnosed that year with DCIS, so ductal carcinoma in situ. They caught it very early, which I was very lucky about. And because of that, and because I was so young, the doctors together felt like I could just have a lumpectomy and be good to go. So that summer, they did that and they didn't get a clean margin. So I got this call that said, you know what, don't worry at all. Everything's fine. We just didn't quite get a clean margin. So we're going to go back in again. And I was like, ooh, okay. So we did a second lumpectomy that summer and they called again and they said, well, I have bad news. We still didn't get a clean margin. And I was like, what? Nice. So, they didn't really have any reason why. There was no explanation to me. I don't know if they knew and just weren't really, speculating. But basically, they went in a third time, and that time felt like they had quote unquote gotten it all, but they didn't get a clean margin that third time. And they said, you know what, radiation's going to get the rest of it. We're just going to do radiation, and you're going to be fine. So I spent the fall doing radiation. We did what was supposed to be 5 weeks plus a boost, 6 weeks. I went in every day. I was still working full time. I was a management consultant at the time. So super busy, had a 1-year-old, just traveling and everything. But for those 5 weeks, I stayed in town. I would drive up to Boulder, do my radiation, and then head straight into work. And I really actually had no bad side effects from it in terms of some people get nauseous or have fatigue or whatever. I was fine. I was just generally always tired at that point in my life. So
Yeah,
it was pretty, yeah. It was pretty normal. But by week 5, my skin had just taken such a toll. The radiation was really hard on me, and they couldn't do the boost. They ended up not being able to do it because I was so burned on my chest. They said, "Don't worry, we are sure that we've radiated you enough, and you'll be fine." So they sent me home. 6 months, I was supposed to come back and have a follow-up mammogram. So I did that, which ended up being about a year from the initial doctor's appointment. And at that point, the mammogram was still showing microcalcifications. So they said, well, we obviously didn't get it all. It's very dispersed. So my breasts were not only dense, but the microcalcifications were very dispersed. So they really recommended a full mastectomy. And at that point, I was absolutely in favor of it because I was so tired of going through all this and not feeling, I was nervous. I didn't feel like they had caught it all. So that summer, I went through an entire mastectomy reconstruction. I actually did tram flap reconstruction at that point. Which is where they take your transverse abdominal muscle and some other tissue, and they create your breast from your own tissue. It has its own blood supply. At the time, it made the most sense for me because implants were still questionable back then. There were still, legal cases out about implants and were they safe or were they not safe and all that. And I knew I had a long life ahead of me, or at least I hoped I did. And I really didn't want to be messing with a foreign implant in my body. It sounded much better to me to have my own tissue and muscles in there. So they went ahead and did the tram flap, which makes you have 2 surgeries at once. So you have a breast surgery going on and you have an abdominal surgery going on. And it's pretty rough to come back from, but it was fine. I knew what I was getting into, and I still to this day am glad that I did that. But my plastic surgeon, after I was all done with, the surgeries and the reconstruction and the nipple reconstruction and all that, and the tattooing, it was a long process. Once I was through all of that, he said, okay, now I just want you to know that everything's great, but you should never ever do another sit-up again in your life. And I was like, what? I'm 31 years old. I think I need to be able to do some core exercises. And I wasn't a personal trainer at the time. I was an athlete, but it just didn't seem right to me that would make any sense. But so I went to my physical therapy that they suggested, which was really only 2 weeks of physical therapy. And it was mostly just to get my shoulder range of motion back. And in that time, I was talking to the physical therapist and I said, is it really true that I just can't do any core exercises? And she said, well, we really don't recommend it because you're missing a large portion of your core muscles and it's just going to be hard. So I kind of took that information and it just didn't sit right with me. And I was very active. I was very anxious to get back to working out again and everything. So because I didn't have any other guidance, I just sort of guessed at what I should be doing and what I shouldn't. And I slowly started doing more and more core work. And within a couple of years, I was back at the doctor's saying, what is this big bump on my stomach? And he's like, well, that's a hernia. You gave that to yourself because you don't have any tissue there to protect it. And so, you live and learn. I am proud to say I can do sit-ups today. And they know a lot more about that type of surgery. But that is one of the takeaways that I had from all of that is that, I just didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have any guidance on how to get my body back and get back into shape physically. So I kind of tucked that back in the back of my brain, had to go on with my life. I was actually estrogen receptor positive in that first biopsy. So they were able to give me tamoxifen. And the standard for tamoxifen back then was 5 years. But because I was still of childbearing age and I wanted more children, I had a fantastic oncologist. He was super, super supportive of me having more kids. When I asked the question originally, should I have a bilateral? Because there's, so much breast cancer in my family. He said, absolutely not. I absolutely do not want you to get rid of healthy tissue. You have a very healthy breast on the other side and you should breastfeed from that breast. And I thought, Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that. But I did. I went on to have two more children and breastfed from that breast, and everything was great. So again, in the end, looking back over it, hindsight's always 2020, but I'm glad that I got that help and that guidance, because I do believe I was able to give my other two children a good start. And, everything was great for a long time, a long time. I was watched very carefully, and about 17 years later, after I had quit being a management consultant, after my three children, I said, ugh, these, 60 to 100-hour weeks are just killing me. And I really wanted to be a mom. That was the thing, is I was having children for a reason. So I jumped ship, and I was trying to be a stay-at-home mom. And that lasted not very long, because I didn't like being at home doing nothing. So I was at the gym a lot, and I talked
Okay, so
to
let's say like being a stay-at-home mom is not doing nothing.
No, it's not, for sure. But I missed that accountability and
Yeah.
that responsibility to something other than my children. I wanted to be responsible to my family, and I knew I always had that, but I really missed the working life. And so
Mhm.
uh, one of my trainers at the gym said, "Hey, you really should just think about becoming a personal trainer." And my background was kind of varied. In undergraduate, I always wanted to be a sports psychologist. I had spent some time working at the Olympic Training Center down in Colorado Springs when I was growing up. And so my major was psychology and my minor was sports physiology. So I had a good background in all that. And then it was later that I went back and got my business degree and went into management consulting. So she said, "Why don't you go back to your roots and get your personal training certification?" So I did. And that made a lot of sense to me, because I could have a more flexible lifestyle, and I could still work and, be there when my kids needed me. And about that, well, a little bit later, about 5 years later into my personal training, I was starting to get assigned clients who had cancer, because most of the people at the gym knew that I was a cancer survivor. And so I was training them just based on my knowledge, as much as I knew. And luckily, American College of Sports Medicine, that I was originally certified through, came out at that point with an actual certification. They were, I believe, the first ones to come out with a complete certification for cancer exercise trainers. So I took that certification, I read it all, I took the test and got certified right away, because I kind of felt like it gave me just a little bit more background and knowledge about what I was already doing. So that was great. So I got certified, and then, like I said, about 17 years later, after my first diagnosis, I started having some questionable mammograms and MRIs, and they kept doing biopsies, and then they couldn't find anything in the biopsies. So they said, "You know what, you're fine." Well, the third year in a row after getting that information, I said, "You know what? This is driving me crazy. If nothing else, it's mentally driving me crazy. I feel like I know that there's something in there, and you're just not finding it again." So they said, "Okay, we'll go in and do a stereotactic biopsy, and we will do lots of core samples." So I did. And I was on the table for an hour and a half, prone position with my head, turned sideways, and I couldn't move. I was told very specifically, "Do not move your neck." Well, luckily, they found out that they found what they were seeing. So they did take, I think, at least 9 core samples. It was a lot. It was a lot to
Wow.
go through. But unluckily, putting my spine in that kind of torqued position for that long actually set off a whole nother set of issues, and I got sciatica pretty bad. And
Ugh.
so from there, I fought sciatica for about 9 months, like massively. It
Wow.
was pretty rough. It was bad. And I sort of regret saying, "Hey, I'll stay in here till you find it," because now I'm thinking that was a little too long to be under that biopsy needle. But, you live and learn. So, but they did find the cancer that time. So the other breast had to go. However, I felt a lot more comfortable at that point having an implant. You can't do a tram flap twice, because you would have no abdominal
Only
muscles
got
left.
one.
Yeah, you only
Right.
got one. So I did an implant on the other side, went ahead and had the mastectomy and reconstruction. And yeah, and then that brought me to my new body, I guess you would say. But it all went well. I did not have to have radiation or chemo the second time, just
Awesome.
because they felt like they had taken everything. So that part was good. I then said, clearly, I'm in the right business, and there's something telling me I need to keep working with survivors, because this is just an ongoing thing. Again, I had to recover from all these surgeries, and I felt a lot
Now,
more. Go
Now,
ahead.
I know that there was a long difference between the two, but was it the same cancer that, that reestablished in the other breast, or was it a different cancer? Were they able to
Right.
tell?
I know exactly what you're saying. And that tends to get really mucky. They claimed at the time it was a new cancer, but it was still DCIS.
Okay.
So I don't know really, to be honest, how they can tell whether it's a new cancer or an old cancer or the same cancer, but it was the same type, but they claimed it was a new cancer. So, and I think they're mostly saying that because they had taken, so the first time they took 19 nodes out of my left side when they tested the lymph nodes. They got much better on that over 20 years. And the second time, they only had to take 5. So I think they mostly base that decision on whether or not it has spread. And in those 19 nodes, it had not spread the first time. So I think that's why they determined that it's a new cancer, just the
Gotcha.
same type.
Okay.
So, yeah,
Wow,
but
19 to
yeah.
5. That's
And
jeez.
there's a huge difference.
Absolutely.
I can definitely see on my left side all the effects of having 19 lymph nodes taken out. And, I'm very aware of that. It's not horrible. And luckily, so far, I don't have any lymphedema or signs of lymphedema, but, that's always an issue with
Right.
anyone who's had
For the
that.
rest of your life.
Yeah. So whenever, you go into the doctor's office and they say, which side would you like to have your blood pressure taken on? I'm like, neither.
Can you do it on my leg?
You do my leg. Yeah. But yeah, I always go with the right side because of that. But so anyway, so after that, I said, look, I need to formalize this idea that I've had in my mind over these last 5 years or so about really how to treat someone. Now that I'm officially certified, I want to put a program together so that I can help people other than just individuals coming into the rec center who have survived cancer. So I put together a program called I called it the Cancer Exercise Training Program, and it was super successful and going really well. But what I was noticing is most of my clients had comorbidities or other things going on in addition to being a cancer survivor. So I had people come to me that were very young and had just been diagnosed, and I was training them through their treatment and post treatment. And I had people coming to me who were older, maybe 5 years past their diagnosis and their treatment, and just saying, all I did was have PT for 2 weeks and I haven't done anything since. And I really feel like I need to move. Yeah, you do need to move. So I was training people through all of that. But by the time that they were getting to me, sometimes they would also say, well, I also have diabetes now, or I'm also fighting arthritis, or, weight gain, or all these other things. And I was going through, at the time, I was going through some training on Parkinson's and how to handle Parkinson's clients, and using the exercise as medicine idea with them. And I thought, all of these chronic conditions really can be handled with this. What I was calling cancer exercise training, and now I call Move for Life. So it's a program really for chronic conditions. Most of my clients do have cancer. They are cancer survivors, but some are not, and some have cancer and multiple sclerosis, or they've had cancer and they're now diagnosed with Parkinson's, or they have arthritis, or, and a lot of the conditions can possibly be caused by the original either treatment that they received from the cancer or things that they were going through at the time. So it just makes sense. So it's more a program now for chronic conditions rather than just cancer survivors, but it is for survivors. So yeah.
So let's get into that a little more. So you are now what, 5 years cancer free?
I am now 7 years cancer free. Yeah.
Yay,
Yeah. So
congratulations.
yeah,
That's
thank
incredible.
you.
And you know, exercise is kind of this four-letter word for so many people, and it's so much work and people don't want to do it. And when you're going through cancer treatments, radiation, chemo, like just the fatigue and the muck that people are in during those treatments, the last thing they want to do is get up and move their bodies. They just want to sit around and do absolutely nothing because they feel like crap. So, can you talk a little bit about how important it is, or maybe not, but I know what it is, to be continuing to move and what that can do to how you're feeling throughout the treatments.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first of all, if you take a step back, research really shows that exercise can actually prevent cancer. So, they have identified 7 different cancers that exercise can help prevent. So, breast cancer, endometrial cancer, kidney cancer, bladder cancer, esophageal cancer, stomach cancer, and colon cancer. There is strong research to show that exercise can actually prevent those cancers.
I
In
mean, not
addition,
100%. You and
but
I
not
are proof of
100%.
that.
No, no, for sure. But it can help. And then additionally, for survivors of, breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer, ovarian cancer, survivors of those cancer, the research has now been around long enough to show that exercise is helping to prevent it from a recurrence. So first of all, the research is there to show that exercise is extremely important in preventing the cancer or making it worse, keeping it from getting worse. But you mentioned fatigue. So fatigue is probably the number one complaint that you hear from survivors, either both going through treatment, whether it's chemo or immunotherapy or radiation, any of those things. Fatigue is probably the most common symptom. Another one is nausea, both of which do not lend themselves to someone wanting to get up off the couch and go exercise, right?
Right.
Um, but the thing about exercise is it actually reduces fatigue. So you may be feeling tired, but most everyone that I talk to and that I work with if I can get them to come in and we do the right amount, the appropriate amount of exercise for them that day, they leave saying, I actually feel better than before I came in. So not only does the research show it, but I can just tell you that it absolutely works. In fact, I used to have one of my clients decided, she came to me post diagnosis, but pre chemo. And she said, I really don't know what to do once they start chemo. And I said, you need to keep coming. You need to keep exercising through the chemo. And so she would actually plan her infusions on the days of class so that she would go to the doctor, get an infusion, and then come and immediately exercise. And it was fantastic how much better she felt afterwards. Now, did she not have her down days post chemo? No, absolutely she did. And she did rest and she took those down days, but they were abbreviated and they were lessened by the fact that she had gotten in and actually gotten her heart pumping and gotten that blood flowing throughout her body as she was moving. It actually helps to alleviate the bad symptoms and helps you feel better and actually moves the chemo through your body. So she really found, and she has said it over and over, I truly believe exercise is what got me through that and helped me to come out better on the other side. So it's not only just true, but it actually, you feel it. You feel that fatigue start to lessen after you've worked out. But there are so many other benefits of exercise for people who are going through treatment. Number one, most important, is it reduces anxiety. It gets your mind off of the bad stuff that's happening and the worry that so often goes along with treatment. And it gets it onto, I actually have control over something in my life. So lack of control or feeling like you have a lack of control is very common when you're going through cancer treatment, because you're never quite sure if what we're doing is the right thing in terms of, is this going to be the chemo that works, or is taking a week off because my blood count levels weren't high enough, is that going to hurt me? Is the cancer going to come back? There's so many questions going through your mind when you're going through treatment. But when you're actually exercising and you're controlling how you feel and how hard you're working, you get your mind off the worry and you get your mind onto something that you can control. You can touch that treadmill and you can make it go faster or slower, and you can speed up your body or slow it down. It's amazing. And just that feeling of control helps to reduce the overall anxiety that someone's going through. So those are two big things, is it reduces the fatigue and it decreases the anxiety. There's a lot of other, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, what would you tell someone? All right, if someone is listening right now and they're in the midst of treatment and they just feel awful and like can't get off of the couch, what would you tell someone to help them be able to get off the couch and actually do something, even if it's just go for a walk or something like that? How do you get somebody off of the couch or out of bed to go and do something movement
Right.
wise?
So you're exactly right. It can be just getting off the couch. So I always tell my survivors every single day is different. And we actually use what we call a fatigue scale of 1 to 10. So one is I feel great to go, and I feel like Superwoman or Superman today. I could do almost anything. And 10 is I literally can't peel myself up off the couch. So everyone falls somewhere in there every day. And actually, when I'm working with my clients, I ask them every single day that I see them, where are you on the scale today? Because cancer, no matter if it's in your past or your present, or hopefully not in your future, but it comes on and goes away at different times in terms of the symptoms. So some days you can feel great, and then very next day, for maybe no reason at all that you can understand, you may feel terrible. So you may feel different on that fatigue scale every single day. So I always tell my clients, I am going to meet you where you are today. Our workout today is going to be where you are today. And if that is truly getting up off the couch and doing some circles around your end table and then sitting back down, then that's what we're going to do, because any movement is better than no movement. So you are going to get your heart rate elevated. You are going to get some blood pumping through your body, out to the extremities and everything. That in and of itself is better than just staying on the couch. So most of the time, people really understand that and really can at least feel some sense of calmness or peace with that. It's not like if you don't come into the gym, jump on the treadmill and go as hard as you can, then you're not getting a workout. That just isn't true at all. And the research has really shown that if you start very low and progress very slow, you actually get more benefit out of the exercise than if you were to try to move too quickly or to start too high. So I always start people where they are, even every day, but specifically when they first come to me, where are you? And let's start from here. This is your new baseline. I know you maybe used to be a marathon runner, or you used to be able to ski all day and not get tired, but maybe your goal, if you're coming to me saying, I just really want to be able to get onto the slopes this year, then maybe your first goal is to be able to get up there, survive the altitude change, do a few runs, and come down, and boom, you did it, right? So it's a mindset change. It's understanding that not every day is going to be the same, and that you're not going to feel the same every day, but a little bit of movement is better than no movement.
Awesome. And now I also want to talk about, so if people aren't necessarily exercising before a diagnosis, or even if they are exercising before a diagnosis, can you talk a little bit about the importance of exercise from a standpoint of preparing for surgery, preparing for treatments, and how and exercise can be beneficial before you go into all of your treatments?
Yeah, that is a very good point. Everyone has a baseline, right? So it's wherever they are prior to coming to a program. So maybe they have never worked out before. Maybe they were a marathon runner. Let's look at both sides of the spectrum or whatever. If you can elevate that baseline, or at least maintain that baseline prior to treatment, your body is going to be able to accept the treatment better and recover more easily. So it goes from everything from just fatigue to even your weight. So if we can get you to a healthy weight prior to going through treatment, you're going to be able to maintain that weight, and if you still need to lose, get even more off after treatment easier than if you were to just be sedentary and, maybe heavy if you're heavy. So weight gain, or even weight maintenance, because a lot of treatment causes people to actually lose too much weight. Especially chemo, if you can't keep the nutrition down, a lot of times people will just say, I just can't eat. My mouth hurts. I've got mouth sores. Nothing tastes good. So weight maintenance is a big piece of it prior to treatment, is you really want to get a healthy body, as healthy as you can get it. But in addition to that, really building your strength and your endurance, because treatment takes a toll. No matter what kind of treatment you have, it takes a toll on you. So if that baseline is higher, it's going to be easier to get back to that or even better post treatment. So any kind of, I always tell people, it's okay if you haven't worked out before. Don't wait until after all your treatment to come to me. Let's get started now, get you used to moving. That's going to also make it a lot easier for you to come in during treatment. You're going to be more motivated to do it because you know how good it can make you feel.
And it also, and as you said, it can really help with the anxiety because I mean, somebody gets a cancer diagnosis and boom, anxiety and fear just go through the roof. I don't care what kind of diagnosis you get. There's always, when you're diagnosed with cancer, oh my God, am I going to die? And am I going to lose my hair? And how is this going to go?
Yes.
And so just being able to move your body and exercise. And it's not like you said, take each day as it comes.
Yeah.
But if you're having a good day, like get out and move, go for a walk, get out in nature, go, lift some soup cans or lift some weights or something that it can really help to decrease the stress and anxiety of facing a diagnosis before you even get to all of the treatments that are involved.
That's exactly right. And being inactive just causes you to sit and think about all the things that are causing you anxiety, and it just exacerbates the whole problem, and then you actually feel worse. So being active helps to reduce that a lot. Like I said, I'm using the word active because there's no one answer to it. There's nothing that says you have to run to feel better. You have to be able to swim to feel better. You have to lift weights. All of those things are good things, and each person is individual. And so what we really focus on is taking that individual person and looking at their whole journey and where they've come from and where they're going, and say, this is the best prescription for you. This is the best exercise prescription for you because it's something that will help you, and it's something you'll do and that will work to help you meet your goals.
Awesome. All right. So we talked about going through treatment, the importance of exercise. We just talked about from between diagnosis and treatment, or before diagnosis, the importance of exercise. Now let's talk a little bit about exercise in survivorship and how important it is to either start or continue an exercise program once you get into survivorship or out of active treatment.
Yeah. So a lot of people, like I said, I do have people come to me that have never exercised before, and they didn't go through any exercise program during their cancer journey, and now they're a survivor, and they just say, I think it's too late. Well, that's absolutely not the case. It's never too late to start exercising. Again, we just need to figure out where you're at and start from there. That's your baseline, and we're going to work from there. But as I said before, it's proven, research has proven that exercise does help prevent the onset of some cancers. It certainly, if you're living with any other kind of chronic disease, it certainly helps to alleviate the symptoms of it. So post treatment, and once the doc says, okay, you're good to go, you're a survivor, you made it through, that doesn't mean that you don't want to continue to treat this body like a machine and help to fuel it correctly and help to oil it and keep it running, because a body at rest stays at rest. So it's so much more important. The importance is not when did you start, it's are you going to start, and let's go ahead and get moving, and let's set some goals for you, and let's start meeting those goals, because all the research shows that exercise is good for you. Now it's the type of
I haven't found anything yet that says it's not.
No, definitely. It is pretty hard to argue that. Now you can exercise too much, you can exercise not enough, that kind of thing. But that's so easy to fix, that, in terms of making sure that we get the right kind of fitness prescription for each individual. But yeah, I mean, some exercise is always better than none. At any point, it's never too late to start.
Well, and plus, especially with something like, the breast and reproductive cancers, that, all of the treatments that they put you on, they send you into menopause, you end up with the menopausal weight gain. There is risk for obesity, risk for diabetes, risk for heart disease, especially if your heart's getting radiated along with your breast. And, exercise can help stave off all of those things,
All of
all of
those
those
things.
comorbidities that come from cancer treatments.
Absolutely. And all of those are absolutely big problems, right? We're not saying that, well, just because you're a cancer survivor, you've survived the big one, now you're good to go. I mean, like you said, radiation is so hard on your lungs and heart. It can be, depending on where it's happening. And you don't want to be then facing, heart surgery next. You want to be working that heart. It's a muscle just like the other muscles in your body, and you have to work it. So you're exactly right that it is just never too late to start exercising, and it's extremely important. And it's going to continue to provide the benefits that it provides during your cancer journey. So you're still going to stave off fatigue. You're still going to feel better. You're still going to lessen your depression if you have any. You're still going to feel better. You're going to have a better quality of life, because the more exercise you do, of good exercise, the right exercise, the more proper you are, the easier it is to function in a proper way. So you can hold your body correctly when you're doing regular activities of the day. You can have good posture so that you don't have joint aches, which, the aging process is not fun, right? None of us really love the natural aging process. But if you're continuing to exercise your body and treat it like a machine, then you're going to be able to stave off some of the bad side effects of aging a little bit, at least. So keep your joints moving and keep your muscles moving and keep your bone health strong. That's another piece that's really important with exercise. And, depending on the treatment that you had going through cancer, sometimes that can take a really big toll on your bones. The chance of osteoporosis, if you've been staying away from estrogen for the whole time, if you were estrogen receptor positive, there's so many things that can cause more problems in your future. But you can work on all of those with exercise.
And I always tell my clients that exercise is about functional movement. Like, we don't do bicep curls so we can do a better bicep curl. We do
Exactly.
bicep curls so we can lift grocery bags and we can lift our grandchildren and all of that. Like, exercise has a purpose outside of just, picking things up and putting things down in the gym. That
Absolutely.
it's all for a greater purpose, so we can thrive as we age, so we can play with our grandkids or not be a fall risk, or, whatever it is that you want to do. So exercise has just so many benefits. Like, you and I could talk for hours and hours about the benefits and how important exercise is. But
It's so true. I have a great story. I love this. It's absolutely true. So one of my very first clients, when we first started the cancer exercise program, came to me. She was still undergoing treatment with chemo. She'd already had radiation. She was just, the drugs were rampant in her system, but she was fighting a pretty strong cancer. So most of the time when she came to me, she was pretty fatigued, pretty tired. But we would start out, like I said, I would meet her where she was that day, and we would do something that was appropriate for her level of fatigue, but that would work her muscles and work her bones. And she had talked a little bit. She was a good talker, and she was always helping other people and talking about other people. And she didn't talk that much about what she loved to do, but she had talked a little bit about how much she loved being in her garden. And I think it was kind of February, Marchish. So not a lot of the plants had come up here in Colorado yet when we were going through all this. And fast forward to June, she came into class one day and she looked at me and she had tears in her eyes. And I was like, my heart just kind of sank. And I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "No, these are happy tears. These are the happiest tears I've had in weeks." And I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Today I stepped over my garden fence so that I could get into the garden. And I started doing my gardening." And she said, "Until now, I haven't been strong enough. I couldn't lift my leg high enough to get over that fence to get in there." And I still, to this day, I almost start crying when I hear it, because it meant so much to her. And it just was because we had been working her quads. We'd been working on balance. We'd been working on all the things that are, maybe you don't realize when you're in the gym doing it, but they're all based on helping you function correctly when you're stepping. something, right? And when you're lifting your legs up and standing on one leg and balancing, and that did it for her. And she put the whole picture together that day when she stepped over. She was just like, hallelujah. And that I'll never forget that, because it's a good depiction of, like you said, how important it is just for functional daily activities. Mm-hmm. Even though it seems like you're just doing a bicep curl, you're actually being able to carry those groceries in from the car.
Do the multiple bags on the
That's
arm,
right.
you know, instead of making multiple trips. All right. So bottom line, if you haven't been diagnosed, if you've been diagnosed, if you're in treatment, if you're in survivorship, wherever you are, exercise is important.
Absolutely.
So now I know my organization, the Cancer Exercise Training Institute, has on their website a directory of all of the cancer exercise specialists all over the world that I'm going to put in the show notes. Does the ACSM have a similar directory for people who, you know, are cancer exercise trainers everywhere? So people who aren't in Colorado, you know, can still, if they want to have a personalized assessment, find out where they are and what they can do, that they can go to and find somebody.
They do. And I will get you that contact. Okay. Yeah, they do on their website. They have, as long as someone has actually put their information in. Yeah. And they have a directory. So yeah, I will get you that.
Okay. So we'll put both of those in the show notes, because, you know, yes, it's very important to exercise, but especially if you've been through, you know, something with complications or you're in the middle of treatment, it's really important to find somebody who is specially trained in dealing with those situations that just, you know, Joe Schmo personal trainer might not understand and might give you, I don't want to say wrong information, but maybe not the best advice for the situation that you're going through.
Absolutely.
So definitely find somebody who's trained, who can help you at least get started, so you kind of get your baseline and know where to progress from there.
Yep. Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So where can people find you? Where can people reach out to you if they have questions, if they want to know more about Move for Life, if they want to just know more information about exercise?
Yeah. So I work at the Paul Dirta Recreation Center in Broomfield, Colorado. That's where the Move for Life program currently is, but we're in the process of expanding it out across the state rec centers across Colorado. So that's an exciting thing, is we really want to get it moved outside of just Broomfield. I do have clients that have come to me they've driven long distances to come, but I'd rather them be able to go to their own local rec center to get this. So we're in the process of that. But to find me, the more information on the Move for Life program is at www.b as in brother rex.com. So www.b-rex.com, and then search on Move for Life, and all the information is there. They can also
put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah. And then they can also reach out to me directly at lwalther@broomfield.org. So
are you on any social media or?
I am. I don't have a specific Move for Life social media account. I have a personal Instagram and personal Facebook account where I do actually post stuff about exercise, because, you know, I love it.
Right.
But yeah, probably the easiest way to get a hold of me is through email at broomfield.org. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This was such a great conversation. And, you know, you and I are both preaching the same thing about how important exercise is to your health. And, you know, this was some great information, researched information, and just, you know, again, bottom line, start moving your body if you're not already.
That's right.
You know, even if you can just go for a walk every day, it's a start, and you can, you know, build on that.
Absolutely. You got it.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. And
thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And we will definitely keep in touch, and I'll let you know when, you know, when all of this is going on.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thanks.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.